Thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to host Sandeep today, who's building not just one of India's largest marketplace, probably, arguably one of the world's largest marketplace. Sandeep, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me over, and thanks to everyone. Very good afternoon.
Thanks. I think let's start with the macro picture, right? We talk about 500 million smartphone users, 900 million in a couple of years. From your vantage point, how do you see the broader landscape for commerce in India at this point, Sandeep?
I think it's evolving pretty fast, Yash. If you look at just the internet adoption, right? I remember days, and I've been in the e-commerce industry for about a decade now, over a decade now. The starting journey, the journey was pretty tough, right? When we were onboarding small and medium businesses,
Brand owners to start selling on Amazon, which was my previous company. It used to be challenging because of a couple of reasons. Number one, there was no fast internet in the places where they operated from. Number two, the technological sophistication of this set of sellers, retailers, was not pretty high. So it was a challenge to convince them to first sell. At the same time, getting customers to adopt and buy online was a challenge. Trust was anyways there, but technologically we were not strong enough. I remember being a part of a committee or being part of a team in my ex-company where we were trying to build a light app, right? So that people from across the country can purchase online. From there to now, where we are talking about, we are already close to 5% of e-commerce penetration. So it's not just access to internet, but e-commerce. And that number growing to 10%, it's pretty significant. I think the landscape has changed, it has evolved, and it presents a huge opportunity. That's what I think, and thanks to, and right now I'm part of Reliance, so thanks to Jio, the smartphone and 5G on smartphone penetration, which was around 20-30 crores, is now 60-70 crores. So now there is internet, there is sophistication. It's all about ensuring that the right quality of products are built for the consumers to just keep shopping. So I've given an e-commerce picture. I think as we progress, I'll talk about other stuff also.
Awesome. But I think even with so much penetration of smartphones and stuff, I think one thing which is starting to emerge is that there's no online-only commerce, there's no offline-only commerce, right? And I think there is a lot of interplay between the online-offline models. And I think you guys have been pioneers of this entire model with obviously the huge offline presence that you have. But talk us through the logistics of this all, right? Like, I mean, you manage obviously so many offline stores and then there's the entire JioMart. What's the role of logistics in this entire ecosystem?
I think it's a great topic to spend some time on. Yes. So to begin with, right, I think you are right. And my learning actually has been, my opinion has been accentuated by what I've observed in the last couple of years, last 2-3 years post-pandemic. During pandemic, we saw a sharp rise on online purchases, right? The numbers shot up like crazy. And all of us expected that was here to stay and online is going faster than offline. And that's where our focus should be, right? That's the feeling that we had. Right after the pandemic, when the lockdown settled and markets started opening up, we saw a sharp rise in offline footfall also. And that I'm privy to being a part of the Reliance ecosystem. Like you said, right, we have a network of 70,000 stores across the country. So we started seeing a very sharp uptick even in offline footfalls. So in the last year or so, we've seen growth in online purchases as well as offline purchases. And if that's the trend in a country like this, and I truly believe that physical touch point is very important in the Indian context, in the Indian community, right? So knowing that, and knowing that technology and e-commerce can solve a lot of other problems that a physical world wouldn't, the best strategy for us to operate in the country is an omnichannel strategy. Now, what omnichannel means is not just operating online and offline. What it means is being able to give the exact same experience to a customer, whether he or she walks into an online shop like JioMart or walks into an offline store like a Smart or a Trends, right? So that becomes critical. How do we manage to do that? There's two things which become very, very important, right? One is the experience we give to a customer when they walk into a store, online or offline. Second, logistics, like you said, right? How are we ensuring we are building the right kind of technology to ensure that the vast offline network that Reliance Retail has built over the last decade and a half, that's moving pretty fast to a scalable tech platform. What that'll do is I'm able to maintain the exact same experience. For example, a customer from a certain pin code searches on JioMart or walks into the local smart store, finds the exact same selection at the exact price, same price, and the offers. So the bank offers available, we are trying to match it. So that for me is proper omnichannel, and that's what we are trying to achieve. So technology becomes key. Second is obviously the fulfillment experience, right? When you walk into a store, you are able to get a package and walk out. How do we ensure that that happens seamlessly? Logistics plays a critical role, and we've tried to build a system or an algorithm which exactly does that. So if a customer orders from a certain pin code, the order goes to the closest store. Not the products are not available. It toggles to the next, the closest DC, the distribution center, the closest warehouse. That's how we are able to operate for certain categories like grocery, electronics, etc. Now, obviously, we have our large format warehouses, which takes care of the rest. So that's how we are managing the logistics piece of it. But like you rightly asked, I think the two critical pieces to provide a proper omni-channel to experience to customers is technology and logistics.
Awesome. I think you briefly mentioned about technology and the interplay on customer experience, right? Probably peel a few layers and talk to us about how you're leveraging some of these things around artificial intelligence in ensuring you have that seamless customer experience, whether someone's visiting the online store or the offline store. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'll definitely talk about AI, machine learning, and how we are leveraging that, Yash. But I think it's important for me to explain what I think about technology manifestation in a context like Indian context, right? I remember a decade ago or even more, there used to be a struggle for me to just walk down my office, go to the nearest pan ka dabba and get a cigarette. Like India is a community where we don't buy a pack of cigarette, right? You're always used to going and getting a single. It used to be a struggle for me to pay, extract change from the shopkeeper or be able to provide change. So the biggest or the strongest manifestation in an Indian context is being able to walk, grab a cup of tea on the roadside stall, or being able to buy a cigarette or a pan, whatever you like, and being able to transact without using cash, currency, or card, right? UPI. That I think is the simplest manifestation and the simplest way you can imagine how technology is able to transform the Indian landscape. Very simple, right? We haven't used AI, we haven't used ML there. A simple interface which is enabling payments, right? Good for the shopkeepers, good for the customers, right? That's how I think how technology has transformed how we are living in this age. But to our question, how we are able to use AI and machine learning is a couple of use cases. The strongest use case, and that's something that we've experimented, deployed, and learned, is being able to detect fraud and buyer risk and seller risk, right? Vendor risk. That's what we use AI and ML for. But to the customers, right? This is what is most important when you're running an e-commerce setup, to be able to ensure that you are saving costs and protecting yourself from abuse. But to the customer, to Aniket, the simplest form for you to understand is the personalization, the recommendations that you're able to see when you log into any e-commerce website, right? Largely, it's powered by AI and ML. Not just that, right? At least at JioMart, we've started experimenting, and we are very close to deploying a blockchain solution for seller-vendor payments, because we expect that to be confidential. Each contract varies, right? What I sign with a particular vendor is different from what I sign with another vendor. It has to be secure, but the payments have to happen faster. as seamlessly as possible, instantly if we could. So we built that, and we are almost going to deploy that. So technology, like I said, right, becomes at the forefront. It's about how you want to see it, right? There are simplest forms of technology that you can see in the e-commerce world. There are also complex forms like artificial intelligence, blockchain, that power e-commerce.
Awesome. And I think we can't talk about technology without talking about the so-called next frontier in innovation in India, right? Which is ONDC, and everybody seems to be saying that it'll lower the barriers to entry, it'll level the playing field for a lot of mom and pop stores, and India as a country has been thriving on a lot of these neighborhood stores, right? How do you see the impact of that? What are you guys thinking at JioMart about ONDC? Would love to get your thoughts on it.
Sure. I think it's a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. I've grown up in India, and I know how important small and medium businesses are for our economy, right? There's, I think, 60, 70 million of small and medium businesses, right? For me, that sector becomes very, very important for two reasons. One, they contribute to the country's gross domestic product, right? GDP. Almost 30% of the country's GDP is contributed by this community. Significant. And number two, whenever I think about SMB, I think about employment opportunity. And here we are not talking about corporate employment, right? I'm talking about, imagine a Kirana store or even a puncture shop in the neighborhood, right? It is not run by an individual. There is an owner, but there is also a chotu or another person who's helping in packing and helping in delivery, right? So on an average, if you talk about all sizes of SMBs, even if you think 2-3 jobs are being provided, we are talking about 250 million jobs that this community is providing across the country. And this is not mainstream. These are not jobs which are formal payroll, tax-paying roles, right? This is just driving the economy. This is driving the purchasing power of the country. So that segment becomes very important. So ONDC as a concept, as an effort, is significant to a country like India because it is our responsibility to protect the interests of the SMB community, not just from a moral point of view, but if we don't protect them, then we are risking 250 million jobs. That's how I see it. So democratizing business for these small and medium businesses is very important, and I think that's exactly the objective that ONDC wants to solve for. And we are 100% supportive. We are partnering very closely with Mr. Koshi. Our teams, our tech teams, our business teams, our legal teams are partnering, not just in developing the required technology, but giving feedback on how the protocol should function, how the policy should be drafted, so that it makes it easy for large companies as well as small and mediums to operate. Net, the expected benefit will be a direct impact and rub-off on buying customers and sellers, small and medium businesses. So pretty supportive, and we are working very closely with them.
So net, you expect a lot more positive outcome with a lot more suppliers going online, a lot more sellers coming online for you?
Absolutely. I think it's in a very early stage for me to quantify. But I think the intention is right. And the way the effort is structured gives me confidence that eventually that is what's going to happen.
Got it. Let's switch gears a bit, right? Let's talk about customer engagement, which is the main theme for the day today. You guys at JioMart pretty much pioneered the entire conversational commerce in India. You partnered with WhatsApp very closely. You did a lot of early initiatives on WhatsApp. How did that work for you? What's the next big thing on that front, Sandeep?
No, I think it's worked brilliantly. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's very unique to us. So we are by far the largest e-commerce setup that's been leveraging WhatsApp, and the growth rates have been significant. Just in 6 months, the size of business grew 9 times or 10 times already, and consistently we see a lot of new customer acquisition happening from WhatsApp. Flipping back to like about 10 minutes ago when I was talking about the fabric, the Indian fabric, right? It is a high-touch experience that Indian consumers want, right? I'm not sure if you saw JioMart's ads during IPL, but we are touching on that, right? We are trying to talk about the relationship that a shopkeeper has with customers. It goes a long way. So if you want to get people to adapt, there's 2 reasons why I think WhatsApp is important and why we are betting heavily on it, aggressively on it. Number 1, the conversational flow, right? For Indian consumers, it's important that they're able to feel there is an interaction and not just transactional, technologically driven transaction. So that makes WhatsApp important. The second is there's a lot of late adoption of smartphones, right? So if you look at, I quoted a number, right, 60, 70, I don't know the exact number, but I'm assuming there's about 60, 70 crores of folks having smartphone with 4G. Of those, I'm pretty confident that 40 to 50 crores of them will have WhatsApp loaded. They will download WhatsApp just to stay in touch with their friends or receive forwards from their friends and relatives. It is tough for folks to download and transact on an e-commerce setup, right? And what will they do? They've got limited space. You talk about the processor, you talk about hard space also, right? They will not have space enough to have multiple apps, right? But WhatsApp is there. Light app, it is there. So our target is to ensure I'm able to target that set of customers who are not sophisticated enough yet to download an Amazon or a JioMart or a Flipkart or a Big Basket, but have WhatsApp and are comfortable just opening WhatsApp and saying hi and purchasing from there. The other advantage that we have is, like I was explaining, we have an omnichannel setup. So someone who's ordering on WhatsApp, he or she expects instant gratification. They don't want to order on WhatsApp and wait for a week for the product to arrive. So I think we are best placed to give that experience to customers, right? Instant gratification. You place an order, we'll get it to you today or tomorrow max. And that's how we've chosen what we show to customers. While the entire JioMart catalog is available on WhatsApp, what we merchandise, what we show is products that we have high confidence on, what we can deliver today or tomorrow. So grocery, fashion from the closest smart store, electronics from the closest Reliance digital store. That's what we are merchandising. So it's been working pretty well. Still early. It's been like, what, 6 or 8 months since it's gone live. So look forward to what happens on this.
These problems are real, even for someone like JioMart at this scale. Getting people to install and retain the app is not so easy. I think the problem statements don't change irrespective of the scale looks like. But the right word probably to see the way you've scaled in the last couple of years, Sandeep, is probably blitz scaled, right? Like essentially, I mean, you went boom. Like, I mean, you're one of the largest marketplaces now. What are some of the growth strategies that really worked for you? Probably the top 1 or 2, I wouldn't call them hacks, but anything that you'd like to share with the audience today?
I'll try my best. I mean, it's true that we've blitz scaled, but that is compared to ourselves yesterday or the day before that. We're still small, we're still growing and learning. So we aspire to be one of the largest marketplaces. We're still not the largest. But the journey, what made us scale this fast is a couple of things, right? I mean, one, how we are strategically placed, right? I spoke about 17,000 scores, right? What that gives is not just an ability or a capability for us to play omnichannel. What that has managed to give us is high recall in customers. We spoke about, does even JioMart have problems getting the app installed? We do, but maybe lesser than other players, because Reliance as a company or Jio as a brand has high recall. So when people are seeing a Reliance store or they're seeing a JioMart logo, they're able to, the trust feeling comes in and they're able to adapt. So the 17,000 store network and the high trust on Reliance and Jio as a brand, right, that's helping us scale. Number 2, obviously, our marketing team's efforts. I think they've done a tremendous job to do 2 things here again, right? One, traditionally applying digital marketing efforts that has scaled. But because of our offline knowledge, because we've operated a decade and a half offline, the knowledge of being able to tap into customers who've been primarily offline, shifting them from offline to online. And that has happened at the core, right? BTL activities and in-store activations. We do in-store activations, smart stores. That has helped, I think. The third and the last piece is our investments in technology. Being able to build scalable, robust, and intuitive applications for sellers and customers to use. I think these 3 factors have helped us blitz scale.
Awesome. I think one of the points that you mentioned today was also about the seller and customer relationship in the Indian fabric, right? And I see you guys have been doing a lot of initiatives on that front to bring more sellers into the JioMart fold. You've also been investing a lot into making sure, sellers unique to India, handicrafts, promoting them. Talk to us more about how you're investing into some of these unique aspects as well.
Absolutely. Like I said, right, I've spoken about my passion for SMBs, right? And I'm glad I've joined an organization which shares the same passion. I'm very passionate about SMBs, and if you see a lot of efforts that Reliance as a company has done, or our chairman, his wife, Mrs. Neeta Ambani, all the efforts they have done largely to be able to build the country sustainably, right? I'll share an example. I don't know how much of this is public knowledge, but I will still share it. The story is from about 16 years ago, right? When the Jamnagar refinery was built, it was one of the largest refineries in the world. Heavy investment, lots of investments made. The local state government, central government, everybody's happy with that investment. Our chairman goes, happy, looks at it and says, hey, how many jobs have we created? And he hears a number saying 500. And he's obviously pissed. Like he's saying, I've invested billions of dollars just to create 500 jobs. I'm not happy. Now go find something using which I'm able to create millions of jobs. And that's how Reliance Retail was formed. Because if you look at the Reliance Retail setup now, there is store employees, there is logistics employees, there is managers, there is leaders, there is technology, there's millions of jobs that the organization created. So I gave this example or this story to talk about how our organization is passionate about making a difference and building the country. And when you have such ambition, being able to identify every kind of karigar becomes important. What I mean by karigar is artisan, right? Artisans in Hindi are called karigars. So we've embarked on that mission. We want to identify all sorts of art forms, craft forms in India. There's about 30,000, but 500 which are live and which customers want to. Our ambition and aspiration is to ensure that we are making all of those 500 craft forms available on JioMart. We started the journey, I think, we almost have about 1 lakh SKUs, 1 lakh selection available. We've enabled almost 30 clusters, if I'm not wrong. And we've got teams, locally stationed teams in these clusters. Now, how handlooms, handicrafts work is there are clusters. That I come from Hyderabad. I'm not sure, and there is a place called Pochampally right outside Hyderabad. A lot of women folks may know, but Pochampally is a handicraft or a handloom. Saris, dress materials are made, right? And it gets made only in that part of the country, not even in Hyderabad or other parts of Telangana. So we have a team station to specifically work with that cluster. Similarly, we have a cluster in Gujarat near Kutch. We have a locally stationed team there. So our aspiration is to work at the grassroots level, not just make that selection available. Making that selection available, we managed to do that using emporiums, right? Government emporiums like for Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, we have state emporiums, Kaveri, Lepakshi. We onboard in them. The selection will come, but you would like to work at the grassroots level. So that's how we've stationed our teams there, and we are going to build that business. We believe customers are looking for that. I think that's one of the things that we'd like to do. Eventually, we would like to do, so our motto is what is good for India is good for Reliance. So this is just one example amongst a lot of things that we do as an organization.
Wow. I must say that the mission is very empowering, and I think it'll impact a lot of livelihoods beyond what we typically see as well. So that's great to see. But, all of these will also need a lot of investments upfront, right? And I think if you look at the macros, we're moving away from that mindset of growth at any cost to the question being asked now is growth at what cost, right? And especially in the commerce industry, which is historically, even if you look at Amazon, it still struggles to be profitable, right? So what's your take on it? How do you sort of navigate the next couple of years, all the startups and founders in the room? What's your advice? How are you thinking about navigating this?
Again, this is not. I've been party to efforts where growth was important at all costs, right? The last decade for India and e-commerce has been like that. Thankfully, in the last 2 years with Reliance, I've been enriching. One, the organization's foundation is cash flow, right? They've never built businesses which are growth at all costs. They never built businesses which are going after a valuation or a top line only, right? Always build sustainable businesses. So naturally, that has a rub off on us as JioMart. So we're just in our second year of growth, and we are already having monthly P&L reviews with the leadership. So it's that serious at Reliance. So my advice to everyone is to obviously find sustainable ways to grow. And I'm not talking just because of what we are seeing in the last 6 to 8 months. It's not about a funding winter, but it's in general how it's very important to build sustainable businesses, which may take longer time to grow, but they end up staying for the longer term also. So I think we should definitely focus on that. So we should, like, one of the things that I keep hearing from the leadership whenever I'm presenting a plan is, Sandeep, don't share me plans where you are buying revenue for me. So the term buying revenue is what we should keep in mind, right? Revenue should come based on the products that you're bringing, the technology that you're building. You should not buy revenue. If you're spending $1 to get revenue, then that's a criminal waste. So that's the motto that we've heard from our leadership, and we follow that. A lot of our teams are being more and more responsible now. And that's my advice, don't buy revenue.
And that's the only way to build a sustainable business. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sandeep. It's been absolutely incredible to have you here. So thanks again for joining.